Welcome to the Costa Rican Times News broadcast, airing from Jaco Beach, Costa Rica, the land of Pura Vida, a place where anything goes and accountability is an imaginary word. Now, here's your host, an expat that has spent more than 7 years in the country, the editor-in-chief of the Costa Rican Times, Dan Stevens.
Like that guy said, this is Dan Stevens with the Costa Rican Times. Just trying to stay dry this time of year. Rainy season is definitely in full effect in the land of Pura Vida. But if you're trying to stay dry this afternoon and those rains are coming down, we got a great show ahead of us today. We'll be joined by Rico from Q Costa Rica to go over the happenings and news. And then we've got an exciting interview with Achmat Hassiem, a great white shark attack survivor and now shark conservationist. So stay tuned.
You know how it is, guys. Sometimes you just need to get away with your friends and have a really great time. Costa Rica Guys Trip is dedicated to you. Most guys that are going down to Costa Rica are reuniting with old friends from college or celebrating the last few days of freedom of a close friend by hosting his bachelor party. Costa Rica Guys Trip wants to make sure you have an experience you will never forget. And best of all, you'll be surrounded by gorgeous Latino women. They will ensure that each part of your escape with the boys will be something you will continue to reminisce about for years to come. In fact, a common phrase when you get together will be, remember that time in Costa Rica? Costa Rica Guys Trip concierge service will tend to your every need on every adventure you have on your trip with the guys. The folks at Costa Rica Guys Trip are Costa Rica travel and vacation planning experts and are able to pass their wholesale prices on to you. They specialize in guys trips and hosting bachelor parties. Learn more by visiting crguytrip.com.
Hey, this is Dan Stevens with the Costa Rican Times. Like every week, we're welcoming Rico from Q Costa Rica to talk about the news and blues and what's going on around the land of Pura Vida. I don't know whether to use a canoe or a car as a form of transportation the last few days. The road actually in front of my house turned into a river Friday night. And but believe it or not, supposedly this is a good thing, as these heavy rains symbolize that rainy season is coming to an end. How's weather in your neck of the woods in San Jose?
Hey, how you doing, Dan? Is this in the morning or in the afternoon broadcast? We were talking about the rain. Is it raining or is the sun shining? Right now it's morning and it's sun shining in San Jose. It's been like this for the past week. I think we're coming into the summer season. But I understand what happened on Friday. I was in Jaco Friday afternoon, 5 o'clock, pouring down rain. I mean, it was just incredible. I hadn't seen it like that in a while. Get back to San Jose, it's all dry. So hopefully we're into the summer season or dry season as we call it here.
Yeah, I mean, I actually got a call from a friend on Sunday, and I decided that I was going to take a nap in the afternoon. And she messaged me and was like, hey, by the way, it's pouring down rain here. I was like, yeah, it's a little cloudy out here, but it's not that bad. Well, about an hour and a half to 2 hours later, it was just pouring down. So the only thing is, I'm going to miss rainy season, and I always do. This last month of the rainy season, where it's raining like a lot in the afternoons, and there's the downpours, it cools everything off. But I like the fact that there's not that many crowds here. You've got when the rainy season stops and high season starts. Of course, all the tourists will be coming down here. The snowbirds from Canada, and it means more cruise ships will be coming into the Costa Rica ports. But from what I understand from you, there's some trouble going on in the Port of Limon due to the signing of the contract with APM Terminals. What's going on with this?
Well, it's hard to tell if it's just the workers or, the Sintrajob workers. That's the union that work for the state-run company that handles the ports. If they're just wanting some time off or it's just another. I mean, they go on strike on a regular basis, at least a couple of times a year. This time it's over this APM Terminals contract, a contract that was signed like 2 years ago by President Chinchilla. It's been ratified by the courts. All the appeals has been vetted. It's gone through everything, and there's nothing really that the new government, and Solis, as he said, he's standing firm because you can't really change that contract. So why are they striking? But what's worse is that all the hooligans that are basically setting the fire to the downtown Limon at night, causing trouble for residents, visitors. It's just a mess down there, and I mean it's such a vital port, and Limon's been wanting to be part of Costa Rica. When I say part, they've always like been the unwanted brother. But they continue to go on this rampage of violence and disruption for the whole entire country. Don't know, Dan. Don't know.
Well, I mean, for me, there's two questions that really come up in regards to this. First of all, aren't there going to be more jobs created by APM terminals building this container port?
Well, yes. There's going to be more jobs in the construction, more jobs because it's going to be a mega port. My understanding of everything I've read about this is Costa Rica wants to be kind of a major port in Central America. Right now, Nicaragua and some of the other Central American countries use Costa Rican shipping port rather than their own small ports because they can't handle perhaps the larger ships and the volume. So, I mean, this will be something good. It also means a new road. You have to build better roads to Limon, more traffic, more tourism. I mean, it's an all-around good thing. But the workers, and we're talking unionized workers now, they fear that, well, it's going to be a monopoly, and they're going to be told that maybe they have to work. You know, here's an European company saying this is how we operate, and you either operate or you don't, type of thing. So don't know.
Well, let's hope this gets remedied. I read this morning that the strike might be coming to an end as some of the people seem to be crossing the line and going back to work. So hopefully this will be coming to a close pretty soon. Quick change of topic. I'm a huge advocate for Costa Rica protecting its incredible flora and fauna. But there have been some recent issues that really make me wonder about Costa Rica's commitment to protecting its environment. One of the biggest things is like the illegal fishing goes around Cocos Island. There's about 7.8 tons of fish per hectare, which makes this area one of the largest biomass locations for fish, which of course brings in the illegal fishing. But you look at what's going on. You had 10 vessels that have been continually doing the illegal fishing in that area that are using subsidized fuel that is provided by the Costa Rican government. Does Costa Rica just not care about protecting these natural resources, or they just not have the resources to do it?
Well, I think it's a combination of a number of things, but mainly you've got the practical side of things and the political side of things, and politics saying that yes, there's environmental efforts, and yes, we want to be environmentally, sound and all these great things. But reality is a whole different matter. Costa Rica is a small country. The government doesn't have really much of resources to be able to patrol out in the waters. Cocos Island, I mean, it's off the coast. It's about an hour and a half, 2 hour boat ride off of the coast. So what happens out there is really the reality. How can I explain it? Yes, Costa Rica wants to be a conservative environment, wants to take care of that, but the reality is it's very difficult from a practical point of view of money and resources.
Well, that's one thing that surprises me, though, because they had this big, at least the previous administration had this big feud going on with Sea Shepherd and Captain Paul Watson. And he had offered to bring down the resources to patrol these areas. He does it in various Central American countries and does it around the world. So, and because of this, the only thing I can say is probably it's pride that they don't want to let him come down here. I understand that there was a I guess they would say an attack on a fishing boat, but what's more important to Costa Rica? Put your pride behind, protect your waters, protect your natural resources, and make this so you can continue with your green image and it's not lies. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, but that's not the Costa Rican way of doing things. Costa Ricans love doing it their way, and foreigners come in and they kind of piss off the status quo. It's not right. I don't agree with it. But this is the reality, and we're talking about the politics and the reality of things.
Well, I mean, the only thing is you look at what foreigners they allow in, though. I mean, you look at the road that's being built, that's going to be funded by the Chinese. You've got like the Spanish with Reteve. You've got APM terminals building the container port. So basically, they're saying, yeah, we'll let people in, but only certain ones. And so I just think there's so much money and power behind certain environmental destructions that that Costa Rica is not going to allow these people in.
No question about that. It's unfortunate, but that's the reality.
Well, in other news, the Jairo Mora trial, almost a year and a half after he was murdered in Limon, in that Moine area, it's finally coming to trial in Costa Rica. Jairo was an advocate for protecting the sea turtles and their eggs. He also had mentioned that the eggs were being used as a type of currency in the drug trade. And then fairly soon after he mentioned that, he was murdered. Is it coincidence? Who knows? But as we thought, when he was killed, the previous Costa Rican government administration had the opportunity to deliver justice for a problem that continues to grow in Costa Rica, which is environmental destruction. However, most of us predicted that because of the elections and the Costa Rican presidency, we shouldn't expect a quick response, and this turned out to be true. Now it's finally coming to trial. You've got 7 suspects that are that basically are coming to trial because he was asphyxiated, dragged behind a car, and killed. Do you actually think there will be justice for Jairo in this case, or how long do you think this trial is going to drag out?
Well, first of all, a year and a half is a short time in Costa Rican justice system to bring, especially 7 suspects to trial. So there is quick justice is happening, believe it or not. But something that is being missed along the way with all the rhetoric and the hype and whatnot about this trial is the case of 4 women, foreigners, who were with Jairo that night, doing the environmental thing that Jairo used to love to do from everything I read. They were raped or sexually assaulted. The word rape wasn't actually used, but sexually assaulted, robbed. And these women fled Costa Rica, so these guys are going to get off scot-free on that charge because, they're not here to make the complaint. But the focus on this trial is the poaching and the conservation and so on and so on. But really, is it not about basically these guys were wanting to rape these 4 women? Jairo got into it, and he knew the attackers because Limon's very small, and that's probably why they killed him, or at least that's what the prosecution says. Well, hopefully, I think there will be justice. I hope so, anyways. If not, I think you're going to see a lot more violence in Limon if this goes to untried.
Well, the only way that I see that a lot of these problems in Costa Rica are addressed is to have the punishment for the crime be more severe. That's just my thought. For example, if you're going to spend 5 years in prison for poaching sea turtle eggs or 10 years in prison for shark finning, maybe you would think twice about it. But, I mean, as we know in Costa Rica, accountability is kind of a make-believe word, as it is in many countries around the world. And so you've got shark finning, turtle egg poaching, which are just like drug running, and they're high profit businesses. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of money and power behind them. So I guess I don't know. I mean, for me, I don't see there's going to be very much change unless there starts to be accountability and severe punishments for these actions.
I touched earlier about the conservation and reality of conservation. This is the same thing. Reality in Limon is simply poaching is a big business, as you said. It continues. It's been there for a long time. These guys are going to get their day in court. They're going to get convicted, in my opinion. Let's hope they get convicted, in my opinion. They're going to serve their time to 3, 4, 5 years each. They're probably going to get 20, 30 years each, but, with good time served, they won't get too much actual time in jail. And life goes on. Unfortunately, it's not justice. But unfortunately, that's life in Costa Rica, especially in a place like Limon, which, is still, it's a pretty rough area. And from the sense of point of view that, the local hierarchy, mafia, whatever you want to call it, kind of want things to continue as it's always been and not really change too much.
Right. Well, we can only hope this trial will bring more awareness to the cause that Jairo died for.
Let's hope so.
All right. Well, that runs out of our time. We're actually out of time today. We're talking about the news. But thanks a lot for coming on, Eurico, as you do every week. And if you want to find out more news, go to CostaRicanTimes.com or QCostaRica.com. Both sources for news in Costa Rica.
Until next week, guys.
When we come back after a short commercial break, we'll have on the show Achmat Hassiem, a South African great white shark attack survivor, say that 3 times real fast, and a current advocate for shark conservation. Stay tuned.
Moving to Costa Rica is a wonderful idea, but we know that moving can be difficult and frustrating. Relax. We're here to help ease your transition. Not only will we provide a wealth of information, we'll also get your belongings here safely. Shipping Costa Rica prides itself on the best quality customer service. When you're considering Costa Rica, look no further than Shipping Costa Rica. Just go to shippingcostarica.net.
Today on the show, we have a gentleman whose story motivates people around the world. In 2006, Achmat Hassiem lost his lower leg to a great white shark while participating in a lifeguard training session at Sunrise Beach in Cape Town, South Africa. He was bravely and selflessly luring the shark away from his younger brother, who was also in the ocean at this time, by slapping the water and causing a distraction. Since the incident, Achmat has returned to the water and participated in the 2008 Beijing Paralympic Games, the 2010 IPC World Swimming Championships in the Netherlands, and the 2012 London Paralympics, where he captured a bronze medal in the 100-meter butterfly. He also conquered his fear of going back into the open seas when he completed the 7.5-kilometer Cadiz Robben Island cold water swim in both 2010 and 2011. Achmat has overcome the challenges in his life with perseverance, focus, and a positive attitude. He is now using his voice to help environmental groups, such as the Pew Charitable Trust in Washington, D.C., as well as fellow shark attack survivors. He has spoken at the United Nations, appeared on the Today Show, and will be attending the Convention on the Conservation of Migratory Species of Wild Animals in Ecuador from the 4th to 9th of November. It's my pleasure to introduce and welcome to the show, Mr. Achmat Hassiem. This is Dan Stevens with the Costa Rican Times. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Yourself, Dan?
Yeah, everything's well. How are you doing over in South Africa right now?
Oh, pretty good, eh? Just enjoying a nice Sunday lunch with my family and, just enjoying the time out before the chaos starts again tomorrow.
Sounds like fun. Achmat, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today, as I know your schedule is busy with your upcoming appearance at the conference in Ecuador. I've spent time reading about your motivational story over the past week. What you've overcome and your path in life since the shark attack is amazing. Although I can read about your life online, reading about someone's life does not do their story justice. Can you tell us a little bit more about your path in life since that fateful day in 2006?
Well, it was my dream as a kid to have represented my country from a young age in any sport. I'm very much born in a sporting family, so we've always been driven to, just excel in our sporting generation. In doing that, I pursued numerous sports, trying to be, in the national squad, and eventually found myself competing as a lifeguard on the beaches of Muizenberg here in Cape Town, South Africa. And I was obviously hoping that I would one day represent the South African national life-saving team at the World Championships. So in doing that, obviously, you have to train to become a better lifeguard. You got to train to become a stronger lifeguard, and you got to know how to rescue people in certain situations. And on August the 13th, 2006, in False Bay here in South Africa, in Cape Town, we did what's called multiple patient rescues. Now, as lifeguards, we got to know how to rescue a lot of people in the water in certain incidents. For example, if a boat should flip over and you have roughly 6 people in the water, you as a lifeguard have to know how to rescue all those people out of the water. And the only way we can do that is by having a very speedy rescue and by launching what we call in South Africa a rescue rubber duck. And the rescue rubber duck basically goes into the water, and we get to the victims who are in the water, pull them into the rubber duck itself, and then take them back to the shoreline. So in doing that, myself, my brother, and another friend of mine, we were the acting patients in the water that day. So we were the guys who needed rescuing. And as we were in the water, we waited for the lifeguards to come and rescue us. And we were about 10 to 20 meters away from each other. And eventually my instructor on the beach blew the whistle for the life-saving exercise to begin. And as the exercise took place, the lifeguards entered the water and started picking up my friend Nick, who was in front. I was in the middle, and my brother was the deepest in the water at the time. And as they got to Nick, something caught the corner of my eye on my right-hand side, and as I was staring out into the ocean. And as I looked to it, that's when I saw this fin moving on top of the water. Immediately, I looked underneath the water to see what it was attached to this fin, and that's when I saw a 4.7-meter great white shark heading for my brother. The first thing I did was obviously to drum on top of the water to kind of draw the shark's attention away from him and towards myself. On the same time, screaming at the lifeguards to not pick me up, but go past me and get my brother out of the water. As they got to my brother, I was the only one left in the water with the shark still in the training bay. And the next thing I know, the shark comes up on my right-hand side and sort of like nudges into my legs. And at that time, I'm so close to the shark that I could actually move along its body with my hands. And eventually, the fin of the shark hits my legs. And the next thing I know, chaos just reigns into the air. And I remember seeing the tail of the shark hitting the water and just turning its massive body around and facing towards me. The next thing I know, I was face to face with 4.7-meter great white shark charging at me. Immediately, the first thing that came to my mind was, just get away from its teeth. And, just try to avoid being bitten. So as the shark sort of like lunged for me, I remember taking my left hand and putting it on the shark's nose. And obviously, as the shark is moving its nose, I'm, just trying to get the head past me. And as the head moves past me, I remember taking my hip on my left-hand side and just pushing my hip into the side of the shark's head. In turn, hoping that now all I needed to do was take my right leg and then swing it over the shark's body. Basically riding the shark like you would a horse. And that's as far as my mind sort of told me to respond. And when I did push my hip into the side of the shark's head, and the next thing I knew, I had to pull my right leg forward. And as I pulled my right leg forward, my right leg didn't want to come forward. So I tugged at it again, and this leg just did not want to come forward. So I decided to have a look to see what is going on, and that's when I saw that half my leg was in the shark's mouth really. At the same time, the lifeguards were with my brother and were beginning to pull him into the rubber duck. That's when they saw what was actually happening. And I remember just terror hit the skies. There were screams all around, and it was just incredible. And the power of the shark itself was unbelievable. The next thing I know, I was being sort of like moved around as you would take, as when a dog, for example, has a puppet in its mouth or a doll in its mouth and it does the whole shake. That's what I actually felt like being in a shark's mouth. It was absolute amazing power just being moved side to side. And immediately, just a couple of seconds later, I remember looking at my brother and I screamed at him and I said, Tariq, please don't let me die. And just after I screamed that, that's when I got pulled underneath the water and I got dragged towards the depths of the ocean and got dragged for about 50 to 70 meters underneath. And I knew for a fact that one of two things was going to happen to me. Either I was going to drown or I was going to be eaten alive. So immediately human instincts kicked in, saying that, we never go down without a fight. So the next thing I know, I just started hitting the shark as hard as I could with my hands on the side of the shark's head and using my left leg, which was my free leg, to start kicking the shark on the side of its head. And that's when the shark kind of shook me underneath the water, and that's when my leg kind of just broke off, half my shin just broke off in the shark's mouth. And at that same time, I couldn't feel any pain whatsoever. As I said earlier, I couldn't even feel that the shark had actually clamped down and bitten down onto my leg. Immediately, I just swam for the surface because I needed to breathe more than anything else. And as I got to the surface, I remember just taking my left hand and throwing it out of the water, hoping that the lifeguards would see the splash. And that's when I just saw them coming towards me, and I could hear the sound of the rubber duck's engine underneath the water. And the next thing I know, my brother was hanging over the side of the rubber duck and looking at me. And as I was in the water, he eventually just grabbed my arm, pulled me into the rubber duck, and on the same time he just screamed, "Watch out, shark!" And as he pulled me into the rubber duck, that's when the shark actually hit the side of the rubber duck with so much force that the entire duck with 5 people on it actually shifted in quite a big space. It actually just shifted sideways, but which was a good thing because now we were actually facing the shoreline. And the girl who was driving the rubber duck basically just had to throttle the rubber duck and take us back to the shoreline. So next thing I know, we were back at the shore, and my instructor just ran up and called the paramedics and the ambulance. And the next thing you know, I was airlifted to Constantiaberg Hospital here in Cape Town.
Wow, that story is amazing. And the selfless act that you had to think of saving your brother before yourself is just, it shows your true heart. One of my favorite movies that I've seen probably about 20 times is Soul Surfer, which tells the story of the professional surfer Bethany Hamilton and her life after a shark attack caused her to lose her arm. If this happened to me, I don't think I'd go in the ocean ever again in my entire life. Or maybe I'd go into like a wading pool up to about knee deep, but that's about it. How did you overcome your fear of getting back into the ocean seas? And tell us a little bit about your recovery process.
Well, my recovery process, obviously, while I was in the hospital, I met up with Natalie Dutoy, who is a huge Paralympic global icon when it comes to swimming. Natalie Dutoy is a multiple world record holder. She is one of South Africa's top Paralympic swimmers, and we were friends long before we both kind of lost our legs. And she happened to walk into the hospital at one point, and she told me, "Hey, why don't you, just get into the pool and see what you can do. You don't have to give up on your dreams of wanting to represent your country. You can just keep on going and see how that comes about." And she actually inspired me to just climb into the pool. And the next thing I know, I was breaking records, and I kind of took to the pool like a shark in the ocean, really. Just swimming unbelievably fast and falling in love with a stroke called butterfly. But on the same time, I was dealing with the hardships of having to lose my leg, and also the hardships of having the thought of the shark attack actually going through my mind the entire time. So my healing process in that would actually be that when I talk about the shark attack, when I do a motivational talk, no matter where it is in the world, every time I do this talk, it kind of heals me. The more I speak about it, the more comfortable I become. And it's also given me the opportunities to achieve my dream as a child in wanting to represent my country. Today, I'm a proud Paralympian, and I'm proud to represent my country every time I go abroad, or whether it's here nationally, just to do well and inspire kids and inspire people around the world. And since then, my recovery has been great, and I can only go forth and try and help other people who have experienced the same experiences to try and help them move forward and to get over what had happened to them.
Wow. I mean, your story is incredibly motivational, and you've taken what could be seen by many as a disability and used it to become a powerful voice as an advocate for protection of sharks. Can you tell us a little bit more about your involvement with groups such as the Pew Charitable Trust and other environmental organizations?
Well, I mean, I grew up next to the ocean, to be honest. I had a love for the ocean as a child. I live in a little village called Strandfontein Village in Cape Town in South Africa, and it's on the False Bay coastline. So, we kind of have these great white breaching sharks like right off on my doorstep, really. So you can basically see Seal Island from my house. So it's just, my dad has been a fisherman all these years, supporting the family, and I just grew up loving the ocean, really. And also my recovery process also involved my family and my friends. And in doing all this, I decided, hey, you know what? I was attacked by a shark, but yet I still have that love for the ocean. Yet I still, I grew up with it. I had it all my life. And, I was always a little kid running on the beach, grabbing shells, trying to find out where the shell came from, or looking at the little fish in the pond and trying to work out, what type of species they are. I mean, being a marine conservationist was kind of in my blood to wanting to do that. And I thought to myself, now that, I'm a shark attack survivor, I still have the feeling, but how can I give back? And that's when, the Pew organization actually came up to me and asked me if I wanted to be one of the shark attack survivors for shark conservation, to join their campaign. And the Pew organization is one of the greatest challenges of our time, is saving the natural environment and the rich array of life it supports on land and in the sea. And Pew's work all over the world helps preserve wilderness, restore biodiversity, promotes energy efficiency, and increases the understanding of the ocean ecology. So, in turn, I'm proud to be a shark advocate for the Pew Environment Group and for the Shark Attack Survivor for Shark Conservation Campaign. We obviously go about and speak for those who can't speak for themselves in our oceans, and to press for shark conservation. And we're a bunch of shark attack survivors collected from all over the world, and we basically have joined the Pew Environment Group in efforts to restore and conserve the world's dwindling shark populations. We realize that despite our attacks and our sustained injuries, that these apex predators, these sharks, are in peril, and the situation puts the ocean and all of its marine life at risk. So we're pressing the world leaders for shark conservation, basically. And also, I've done some work with the Save Our Seas Foundation in Cape Town, where we encourage the conservation and awareness of sharks and marine life in the False Bay area where I live. So I've been doing quite a bit of shark conservation and marine conservation at home as well as overseas, which is great.
That is great. I think if I got attacked by a shark, I'd be doing a lot more shark fishing than conservation. But you've got a convention. There's a convention coming up in Ecuador called the Convention of the Conservation of Migratory Species of Wild Animals. That's a mouthful. And it's a United Nations convention made up of 120 countries that's dedicated to fostering intergovernmental cooperation to reduce the decline of migratory species like sharks and increase conservation measures. That, in layman terms, is, I guess, why is this conference important in regards to global shark conservation?
Well, the convention is made up, as you said, of 120 countries in which I basically get to spread the importance and awareness of shark conservation and marine life on a global scale of communication. I mean, it's just an easy way for me to, to be at this convention and actually put my word out to more than one country at a time. It's basically to urge countries to develop shark sanctuaries, to promote shark conservation plans, to prevent extinction on the species, and other similar measures like putting a ban on shark finning.
Nice, nice, and it is very important, especially with things that go on in the waters. As many people know that read the Costa Rican Times, we're a huge advocate of environmental conservation in Costa Rica and protecting its flora and fauna. Costa Rica is a beautiful country, and we want to keep it that way. But recently, Costa Rica has fallen a little bit from its, quote, green image, with issues like sea turtle egg poaching and the use of these eggs in the drug trade, the murder of environmentalist Jairo Mora, and shark finning in large quantities in the Costa Rican waters. What you're trying to do with protecting these species is a noble and important cause. I sometimes feel that the governments, more specifically the Costa Rican government, say one thing and their actions say another. Even after Laura Chinchilla banned shark finning, the practice still occurs in Costa Rican waters. Boats that are illegally fishing are illegally fishing around Cocos Island, and they're being powered by fuel that was provided by the Costa Rican government. I guess my question to you is this: do you think that the Costa Rican government actually wants to protect the species of shark that they're saying they want to in the proposal for the conference, or do you think this is just trying to preserve their green image?
Well, I mean, that is a good question, but unfortunately, I can't speak for the Costa Rican government. So.
Right. I completely understand. I mean, I guess it'd be a little different if you were actually over here and had more knowledge of what was going on. Sea Shepherd's Captain Paul Watson appeared on our show in the past and has asked the Costa Rican government to allow him to help patrol the Costa Rican waters, as Costa Rica really doesn't have the resources to police all of the seas surrounding the country. Is there anything that can be done to bring in more resources to help prevent illegal fishing and shark finning, specifically in the Costa Rican waters?
Obviously, the way I think things is to kind of show that the people who are committing these activities, you got to show them that it's quite a big crime that they are committing. So what I would probably do is I would put a stronger ban on these policies and also give out a harsher punishment on cause of the activity itself. I mean, it's like rhino poaching in South Africa. Basically, if you go out and you poach a rhino, you are looking for a lifetime in prison. And obviously, people who are wanting to do these activities, this illegal poaching, obviously see how bad it is, or how terrible or how harsh the punishment is for doing the activity that they do. So for them to think, hey, I don't want to spend the rest of my life in prison. Especially, at a younger age, the last thing you want to do at a younger age is look for a quick, easy buck by, killing a rhino, taking its horn and then selling it. Or it's either that, or at that young age, you go out there and you basically spend the rest of your life in prison. So, I mean, those are sort of like the harsher punishments that have been put out there to just kind of deter the criminals from wanting to do that. And so I think that is probably a way to go.
Well, I mean, I would love for Costa Rica to have accountability. That would be wonderful. Anyway, I know a lot of our listeners want to know ways that they can help bring awareness to your cause. how can an individual get involved by giving their time or effort to shark conservation?
Well, the listeners can basically contact their nearest marine conservation organization or foundation to find out how they can play a huge part in protecting our oceans, because at the end of the day, every bit counts on preserving our environment for future generations.
Right, I completely agree. Achmat, thank you so much for your time today. We hope to have you back again in the future, and wish you well on your journey to Ecuador. Your story and path in life motivates and inspires us all. Thanks a lot again. Thank you so much again for your time.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure, Dan. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Not a problem. That wraps up another episode of the Costa Rican Times news broadcast. We want to thank our guest today, especially Achmat Hassiem, for taking the time out of his busy day in South Africa and joining us on the show. If you'd like more information, go to CostaRicanTimes.com or email us at info@CostaRicanTimes.com. All links for this show will be provided for in the article that's attached to the podcast. Thanks a lot, and tune in next week.
Thanks for listening to the Costa Rican Times news broadcast with Dan Stevens. We hope you'll check out more news on CostaRicanTimes.com. Be sure to check out the various subjects covered on our website for previous podcasts and more news. Join us next time for another edition of the Costa Rican Times news broadcast.